Hey guys, welcome back to the channel where we're putting a Subaru Legacy turbo engine in the 1981 Subaru BRAT, and we've got to the point where we've got to lay out the wiring harness. Now my tuner has a pretty cool system where we actually use rope and label all of the endpoints for all of the components within the car. So the BRAT harness is going to be completely stripped from the car. We're going to run new wiring for headlights, taillights, engine management system, everything. And so what we're going to start with is laying out the rope for the main harness, and then the green is going to go to each component or sensor or whatever we're wanting to wire up. And I've kind of laid out here everything that we're installing that are major components. Obviously there's others that will wire up, but starting at the front of the car, this is the water, the air, intercooler, and water pump. So we're gonna have to wire up the water pump. Here's a mock-up battery. This is actually the exact dimensions of the AGM battery that we're gonna use. We've got the Haltech IC7 dash, the Haltech ECU, or I guess I should say power distribution system. This will control everything. This is the Nexus R5. This will control the ECU, management system, the lights, everything. And we're gonna mount this on the interior of the car. We've got our switches for the brake and pedal, fuel pump, and then in the back, we've got the fuel level sensor and possibly an exhaust cutoff. I haven't decided on that. And then obviously tail lights, tag light, brake light, all that kind of stuff. So I've got an Excel spreadsheet here. I've got an Amazon label maker, and I'm gonna go through and label all the components and run some rope. Wow, that's interesting. I would not have expected what I guess is sound deadening. Okay, so I just want to give you guys a little update on what we're doing here. The green wire is basically going to indicate where the component is off of the main harness. So the yellow cord is the main harness, and then the green runs to the component. So the two you see here, one is a ground, the other actually runs to the fuel level sensor. Then back here, we have a wire that runs to the brake light, tail light, and the rear blinker. Sorry, that's a lot of focus. Same over here on the left-hand side. And then this is where the two will meet in the main harness. And I ran the wire all the way back inside the car to here. So this is all the factory wiring. So we ran our rope through here. I'm contemplating which way I want to go. If I want to go down the driver's side, up, and then come back over and make a big loop, or if we want to come along this way, run it down this way up here, because the ECU, PDM, and all that's going to be right here. Fuel pump is directly behind this wall. So I'm thinking it might be simpler just come around here, follow this seal, then we'll go into the engine that way, and then we'll just run whatever we need across the dash, the components over there, the AC, the gauges, and all that. So that's what I'm going to work on next. So I printed up this little bracket for the GM flex fuel sensor. I just Googled it. I'm just gonna do PLA for right now, and then we'll probably print out a carbon fiber nylon once we get everything situated in the engine bay. And so we'll use these two mounts here to mount it in the engine bay. Okay, so I've got the engine wiring harness all mounted up. Got most of the engine bay harness ran to the lights. So we got the low and high beam blinkers, and then the side markers. I've got the windshield wiper, pump, and motor wired up. Still got to run to the vehicle speed sensor on the transmission. We've got the flex fuel sensor here. We've got our 3-port boost controller solenoid here. And we're going to put the fuel regulator over there on the firewall, kind of where that blue marker is. I went ahead and mounted the coolant reservoir / overflow tank, which will run here. And then on this side, it's the same tank, but we're ran this to the windshield wiper pump. So I wanted these to kind of match. I haven't completely decided on their location yet, but I went ahead and just did some self-tapping screws to see if I like where they're at. We still need to run like the alternator, AC, and all that, and then also the battery cables, which we'll get to. But the engine harness is mainly done. I will obviously go around and double check everything, look at my sheet that I have. But right now, I think I'm gonna move forward to the interior, start working on that, and then we will double check everything. So I need a place for the fuel pressure sensor, and we are upgrading to these Deechworks fuel rails because we're going to run all new. fuel lines, AN fuel lines, and the Deech Works, both sides conveniently has a port for the fuel pressure sensor. So imagine this will be here, but I want to maintain, or at least I believe I want to maintain, as of right now, these factory covers, which I think I've done. I did maintain them on the WRX. They are a little bit different style. That's a 2 liter, and this is a 2.5. I guess worst case scenario, we have to drill a hole or modify this. I could do either side. There's a lot going on that side, a lot more room on this side. So we're gonna put this guy right here. And we're just gonna build it off this harness that houses will contain the fuel injectors, cam sensor, AVCS intake sensor. What else we got over here? I think that's it for right here. Of course, it runs down and handles like the coil packs and the exhaust AVS and cam sensor and ground. We are not moving forward with TGVs, so we'll delete that, so I don't need the TGV harness. So I'm gonna put this guy here. Hopefully you guys can see underneath here. This is the intercooler for the water to air intercooler setup. And I don't have a lot of room up front. I was wondering if we would run some type of rear mounted intercooler setup, which I think would be really cool. We've got plenty of room back here for one. That side will be for the exhaust. So I'm really thinking about running this back here. We have to have some type of scoop, but there is plenty, just kind of working out how this is going to work. The fuel pump, everything is going to live here. I've got this kind of set out for the exhaust, and these are your grounds and fuel pump wires here. So just something, a lot to think about. Okay, so I have decided to go ahead and mount the water to air heat exchanger in the back here of the Brat. I'm really limited on space overall in this car, as you guys probably have been able to tell from my videos. And so we're gonna basically put this guy about right here. So we will have a fan, which it did come with a fan here. And so we will tie the fan harness into the harness that we already have here for the rear tail lights, the tag light, and for our fan here. So excited about that. That's about the best I can come up with. And so it's gonna make for a pretty cool build. So I'm basically gonna make a tab for this, and then we'll be good to go. So let me get the label on this wire, and then hopefully I'll be able to show you guys this process in the future. All right guys, I think I have everything mapped out the way I want it. We've got all the grounds, sensors, components, everything mapped out. I followed pretty much the original BRAT wiring through the back of the car, through the interior, and then up through the firewall here where the main grommet will be. So now we're gonna go back through. I've updated my Excel spreadsheet. I missed a few things, kind of like wiper motor or wiper pump for the windshield wiper fluid. So I've added those. So I'm gonna go back through. I'm gonna double check everything. Everything's mapped out correctly. We'll take pictures and then we will remove the temporary harness or the mock-up harness from the car and have it ready to be sent off to be made. So I'm gonna start my time lapse because I feel like this is not gonna be fun to watch in real time. So starting time lapse now. I think we're ready to take the harness out of the car. I've reviewed the order form, I've reviewed my Excel spreadsheet, looked over the car again, and I think it's ready to come out. So, gotta admit, I'm a little nervous. This has been actually a very relaxing process, really has satisfied my OCD, but this is a little nervous, taking it all out, boxing it up, and sending it off to get made. So, we'll just have to see, we'll have to trust the process and hope that we got everything. So, time to take this out. All right guys, well that kind of wraps up this episode of mocking up the wiring harness for the turbo swapped Subaru BRAT. Just to kind of recap, I followed a lot of the original factory wiring, routing, if you will. Used a lot of the factory grommet holes. Only had to drill 2 holes, which were actually for the battery cables, which, as you saw, we relocated the battery to the back of the bed. Everything else is kind of factory routing. I really like the kind of loop, little metal loop tabs, if you will, that the BRAT came with, and I want to keep that true to kind of the Subaru heritage there and utilize those. As far as the interior and everything, we're following a lot of the same routing. Obviously, we have new things like a digital dash, keypad, AC, and the ECU being mounted up underneath the dash. If we move forward to the engine bay, we really followed, I should say, the routing of the factory wiring all the way up until we kind of got to the headlights. I kind of had to do a little run over. I wanted everything to kind of come in through the passenger side and then branch out across the engine bay where needed. And so we went all the way over to the driver's side to do like the horn, windshield wiper motor, the windshield wiper fluid motor, and all that stuff, the windshield wiper pump, I should say. And then the engine harness itself is actually, I just followed the factory engine wiring, if you will, the wiring loom that was there. And so as you saw, I zip tied as we went and followed the factory harness. And so that should mimic that pretty nicely. A lot of the factory fuel lines and stuff will not be there. TGVs will be gone. So that'll look actually really nice, I believe, in my opinion, once we get all that out of there. So that's kind of it. We've ran all the wiring. I'm going to wrap this up and later this week take it up to my buddy at BW Tuning, and he and his team are going to make this harness, this mock-up harness with just a bunch of colored rope, an actual reality, and I'm excited about that. So I don't know how long that'll take. I'm not going to rush him. We've got a lot to do on this car, so stay tuned. I appreciate you guys watching and hope you have a great day.